Deputy Eamon Gilmore. Without interruption, please.
Cancorla, when the order of business is over, the House will begin to debate a bill to cut the pay of every employee of the state and to unilaterally change their conditions of employment. I want to ask the Taoiseach two questions, clarify two matters for me before we begin that debate. Firstly, I want him to clarify exactly to whom the bill is going to apply. We did have speculation over the weekend that it might apply to employees of semi-state companies, but that does appear to have been clarified because there's a schedule to the bill which exclude the semi-state employees, so it doesn't appear to apply to them. However, there is a provision in the bill which appears to extend the application of the pay cut, not just to direct employees of the state, but to employees of any body which is wholly or partly funded by the state. That would mean it would be extended, presumably, to the employees of voluntary hospitals, community development projects, family resource centres, leader programmes, development organisations, charities. So I want, Taoiseach, you to tell me if the cuts in pay apply not just to direct employees of the state, but also to all bodies, as it says here in the bill, which are wholly or partly funded, directly or indirectly, out of monies provided by the Oireachtas or from the Central Fund. That's my first question. My second question has to do with the impact of the measure. Taoiseach, can you tell the House what impact will this bill have on the weekly household income of a family, of a clerical officer in a government department, married to a library assistant, both on €30,000 each, and who have 3 children? Can you tell me what is the reduction, the reduction per week in the income of that household? Well, first of all, with regard to those to whom it applies, it says it here, Taoiseach, that it will apply to a body that is wholly or partly funded, directly or indirectly, out of money provided by the Oireachtas or from the Central Fund, or the growing produce of that fund. Now, my understanding of that is that that extends the application of the pay cut to not just direct employees of the state, but to all those employed in the various voluntary sectors that are funded by the state, including voluntary hospitals and so on. Frankly, I find it difficult to see how that can be done, given that the contracts of the employees of those bodies is not with the state at all, but the bodies to which originally employ them. But that's what the bill says, Taoiseach, and you haven't thrown any more light on it in your reply. With regard to the second part of the question, that you don't know what the impact of this measure will be on a family of two, 30,000 each, clerical officer and a library assistant, 3 children. It's €70 a week, Taoiseach. That's what it is. And of course you don't know what the impact of it is, because your government didn't bother its Barney to assess what the impact of your budgetary measures was going to be on low-paid people and on the type of people that Deputy Kenny raised with you who are impacted by the social welfare payments. There is a requirement on government, Taoiseach, it's in the Cabinet handbook, that every measure before government is to be poverty-proofed. It is to be examined to see what impact it is going to have on those who are in poverty or who are at risk of going into poverty. And when the Labour Party asked here last week about where was the poverty proofing for the budget, where was the document, why it wasn't included in the budget documentation, and why it hasn't been laid before the House, none of your ministers who were here seemed to know anything about it. It seemed that the idea that anybody would have done any kind of examination to see what kind of impact the measures in the budget were going to have on poor people, they didn't know anything about it. And your answer today confirms that your government hasn't given a second thought to what the impact of your budgetary measures, either in social welfare or the pay cuts on low-paid people, is going to have on the lives of the people who are affected by it. You can't even tell us today what is the reduction in the family income of 2 people who are going to be impacted by the cut in pay at the lowest level. You didn't give a second thought. You don't give a curse for people who are poor and people who are on low pay.
Briefly,